Welcome to the Motivation Without the Hype podcast with your host, Gez Perez. He's an author, high-performance coach, and motivational speaker. This show brings you inspiring messages and interviews to unleash your greatness in life and in business. So let's get started.
Hi everyone, welcome to Motivation Without the Hype podcast show. My name is Gez Perez, a former procrastinator into an action taker. We bring you inspirational messages and interviews, including motivational insights, tips, principles, and proven strategies that you can take action without the hype in unleashing your greatness in life and in business. Now, we appreciate you plugging in and spending time with us, and we have a very special guest all the way from Costa Rica. We're very grateful to have him on our show, and his name is Matt. Handshaking Homes is a marketing entrepreneur, world record holder for the longest handshake between two people. Guys, take note. And the founder and CEO of handshaking.com, a company that connects contractors and local customers seeking quotes, allowing contractors to shake hands with more customers in their city. Now, to learn how America's number 1% of all became friends and leverage relationship proactively to reach success. Now, Matt's interviewed venture capitalists, members of Congress, and billionaires in the early days of handshaking and learned that providing instant value is the best way to begin all relationships. Now, this led Matt to begin to help others connect with hard-to-get investors, big-time CEOs, and others by building their personal brand through their handshaking services. Now, handshaking only worked with clients for a temporary period of time and now does not sell to any service, but rather donates hundreds of free leads to service providers annually. First of all, Matt, welcome to the show. We're super grateful to have you. Thanks for joining through the podcast show. Really happy to have you on.
Great to be here, Gez. Thanks for having me.
Now, to those who don't know you yet, and will do in this podcast show, tell us who you are and what you do.
Sure. So the quick story is, I was kind of born an entrepreneur, if you will. I started out, I think it was in middle school. I asked my parents to buy some candy that I could sell to my classmates, and that was kind of my first buy low, sell high experience. Eventually went to college, did the same thing with cars and motorcycles, bought low, sold high. Graduated, realized that I would have to sell a lot of cars to make the same income that my peers were making. So I moved to real estate, did real estate. That was my first adult business, registered investors, and did the real estate buy and hold, buy and flip game on the residential side here in the U.S., or actually over there in the U.S. since I'm in Costa Rica today, but down the street in the U.S. Anyway, and then eventually I wanted to get online, and I wanted to have a business about relationships and network, and I've always been an extrovert, and I'm so interested in how relationships play into the success of entrepreneurs. So that was about 7 years ago when I exited real estate. I sold off and finished that company and had a nice little cushion of cash to start Handshaking. I didn't know what it was, but I knew it was going to be called Handshaking because while I was working real estate, I had a quick 6-month special projects in Washington, D.C., on Capitol Hill here in the U.S., and I saw all these famous politicians that you see on TV, and I would always go and shake hands with them when I took a picture with them. So my friends called me Handshaking Holmes, and I realized, yes, I am Handshaking Holmes. So started a company called Handshaking, and that was about 7 years ago, and I can go into more detail on that as you see fit.
It's really catchy when you have that. When they called you Handshaking Homes, what was that pivotal moment for you? Like, yeah, I'm going to take this. Was it because it was just your natural, personality to connect and engage through handshaking, and that's how it came about?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was twofold. The first reason was I realized I was pretty good at connecting, getting the attention of pretty famous or hard to get people, wealthy people, people that most of our friends are kind of scared to talk to. I'm already there and getting a picture or switching cards with them or having a longer than a 5-minute conversation with them. First, I realized I kind of had a skill for that. And second, when they called me Handshaking Homes, I realized, oh yeah, this is the next business for me because I've got nothing to hide and I'm all in on relationships, long-term relationships. They start with a handshake. So I realized, that's really my passion. I love assets. I love buying low and selling high, passive income. Like with real estate, it's a good investment, but it's not my passion. It's just a great investment. And I tried that for 3.5 or 4 years, and I did not like doing that full time. It wasn't my passion, but it was a great business model. I've still got some real estate assets today, but it wasn't where my passion was. And I realized networking and treating your relationships right, strategically with high class mentors, advisors, customers, that's what you want to be doing. And that's where my passion lies.
Like, man, that's really important because a lot of people, are in careers or they're in business, but they're just not happy and they're not driven by purpose or even passion. And so they probably have to work or be in business, but they don't want to do it. So there's a very big distinction in between both. And you said you were in real estate for about 3 years and you started your entrepreneur journey. But what was that pivotal point when you said, enough is enough. I think I'm going to go all in and this is what I'm going to do. Can you just share about that moment and how you made that decision? Because a lot of people right now that's listening on this podcast show are at that edge, right? Like, it's making me money, but I'm not really happy, but I do have a passion. They're sitting on the fence. What would you say to them right now that's listening to this podcast show and share your experience, what you made that choice, say, you know what, this is it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to start living my passion because this is what gives me happiness.
Yeah. Well, I think it was about late 2014. I had just finished selling a condo. I bought a 1-bedroom condo cash with investors, and it was screaming to be a 2-bedroom condo, which adding a bedroom is one of the best renovations you can do to a condo at the time, at that area, in my opinion. And sure enough, it was a win. And I sold that condo and had all this cash, and that was really a good moment for me to say, hey, what am I going to do? Am I going to use this cash and take a risk and try doing an online business about relationships? Or am I going to look for the next property and put this cash in there? And that was a big moment. It definitely played into how money plays into when you launch your business, right? And for me, it was a little bit opportunistic because it was a good time for me to make a change. Now, on the flip side of that, I'll share another experience I think that's worth sharing. Maybe like a year and a half into Handshaking, I was still trying to figure out how are we making money. We're doing personal websites, we're doing Instagram marketing, we're doing random online things. I don't really have a business model. I just know that it's about relationships and it's online. So, the first 2.5, 3 years, we were still figuring out what is our business, aside from just random side gigs and, a couple of staff in the Philippines that I still work with today. But I bought a house while I was full-time on Handshaking. And that was the first and last house that I lost money on. I bought this house. I worked hard on it for 12 months while I was full-time on Handshaking because I knew how to make money with real estate, but I was still figuring it out. How do you make money online with a focus on relationships? So you ask about when that pivotal moment is, and I'd say, well, yeah, money plays into it. And I made a change when I had an opportunity, because if you don't make a change when you have that opportunity, then you're probably never going to make a change. That's number one. Number two, after you make that change, don't get distracted like I did and go buy a house or go back to what you were doing previously, because my attention's on Handshaking full time. I never should have picked up a property to flip for 12 months. That really slowed us down, and it lost money. It lost me money at the end of the day. So two things I wanted to share there.
No, and that's powerful. Sometimes it's natural to go back. However, that's where you really need to decide, am I going to go all in? So were there any kind of fear factors as well that played a part, and how did you overcome that? Because, sometimes it can be fearful, because it's something that's the unknown and something that you really want to build, through Handshaking. But how did you overcome those challenges on those 2 years when you're still going back and forth and trying to iron out the details?
Yeah. Well, I think we're all scared. We're scared of what happens if I run out of money. What happens if I make a big change? I mean, even today, I want to change my investments around, less in real estate, more in crypto, but I'm scared. It's so scary to make a change with really everything in life. But that's where the magic happens, is when you kind of lean into that fear and you're like, oh, what's going to happen? And there's always The hard part of life, I hope this is answering your question, but the hard part is accepting the fact that when you lean into something and you go all in, you don't have to have all the information. But what's important is that other people, other situations are going to realize that you're all in. And if you need a little bit of information, or if you need a little bit of funding, sometimes if you need whatever it is that you need, if people see that you're all in, you're going to get it. But if they see that you're hesitating, and like look at the entrepreneur who's trying to raise money from venture capitalists so he can go full time on his business. Now, why would an investor invest in an entrepreneur that doesn't even believe in their business enough to go full time on it? You have to believe, you have to lean all the way in. You have to accept that fear and embrace it and lean into it.
Come on, that is awesome. Lean in and go all in, because sometimes we need that bit of push, and it's natural. However, it's those challenges that really gets us, build that resiliency inside to make a choice, to be courageous, and that's what we need to do. And we're ending 2021, we're going to be entering a new year, and it's time to say yes to yourself. Work out the how later, but say yes, because when you make that choice of decision to say yes, that's going to help you move and make that decision. So now we know that every entrepreneurs go through each stages of their business. Like, how can someone like yourself, because you met high profile people, you've interviewed, you connected them, and because of the personality trait, and through real estate, you've built that that really skill set. But for someone who's kind of like in different stages of the business, how can they improve their personal brand and really boost their credibility? Because I know you've gone through that stage as well. How do we improve that?
Yeah, well, it's really interesting now, almost 2 years into the pandemic, right? Because now everyone sees, oh, the internet and online and working from home, it's real. People can work from home and receive a real life income. But to work, I used to always advise people saying, if you wanted to improve your credibility and personal brand, of course, you've got to take a moment and optimize your social profiles, your Facebook, your LinkedIn, have a personal website that always adds something when you have your own. In my case, mattholmes.io, and like yours, like everyone else's. If you have your own website, that shows you're serious about your reputation. You didn't just sign up for a free LinkedIn profile, but of course that should be optimized too. And I'm not sure what you guys use over down under, but for LinkedIn is huge out here. I think it is out there as well, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
What are the other
LinkedIn.
what other big networks for professional networking are there out there?
Predominantly, it's LinkedIn. So for anything that's got to do with business, it's LinkedIn. For anything that's got to do with personal awareness, like Facebook and your Instagram.
Yeah.
But more on the business side of things is usually LinkedIn.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, so it's of course important to optimize those, and then what you do with them. Like for me, when I started interviewing people, first it was just a friend who did paintings and sold these paintings for a lot. I was kind of interested. And then I went through a startup accelerator, which is like a business accelerator. They make you launch your business. It's not like business school. Business school is like, here's how you would launch a business. A startup accelerator is like, you are launching this business right now. Set up a mailing list, put your mother on it, send an email to you and all your friends saying you launched this business today. It's like quite different. But anyway, back to the personal brand question. You gotta have that to enable yourself to be the best networker. You have to have a personal website, and you have to have a theme too. What's your niche? For me, it was, how does networking play into success? And as I started having more and more guests, like I'm sure you've experienced as a host, you can start accessing higher caliber guests as they kind of see what you did and how the interview was, or what it looks like with the previous guests. Because if one billionaire trusts me, another billionaire will trust me too. And then his friend might trust me as well. That's how relationships work, right? So that's why a personal website's powerful, is you can control what's on your personal website, where on LinkedIn and Facebook, that's actually owned by LinkedIn and Facebook. They can suspend your page or delete it. When people aren't signed in, they're the ones collecting the email addresses, not you. So the personal website's important to show credibility, indeed.
Wow. So now we've got that important elements of websites and optimizing your social profile. You're well known for connecting with key people of influence. For someone who's kind of starting out or are in business at the moment, but may not have that trait, because it's all about connection, right? And you got to make that effort to actually go out there and make it happen. what would be the steps to actually add value for that connection with key people of influence?
Yeah, so a lot of people are asking these key people of influence, hey, can we go out for coffee? Can I pick your brain? And that's flattering, but these key people of influence get that all the time. They've been successful in their field and everyone wants more time with them. In fact, they probably have hundreds of employees, and every single employee who they're already paying full time would also like time with them. So what's going to set you apart? And one easy way to do that is, of course, this key person of influence should be somewhat in your niche or similar to it. And number one, don't ask them for coffee. Ask them, hey, can I ask you some questions about your success and share it with everyone I know? Which is basically inviting them to be a guest on either your podcast or your video series. Or if you're more introverted and you don't have that trait where you want to go meet them in person, well, guess what? You're probably better at the details than people like myself who are not as introverted. I'm more extroverted, but you can research them and ask them. You can just email them to do a short interview on your blog, and it can be totally email based. And you're going to link to them from your blog, and most of the time they're going to say yes. I think we have Shark Tank here in the U.S. Like you guys. What? I can't remember what it's called there. Is it also called Shark Tank there?
Aussie version.
What is it? Yeah.
It's called Shark Tank, but Aussie version. It's like the Australia Shark Tank.
Yeah. I've watched a few of those episodes. I enjoy them a little bit more, actually. But one of the early sharks here in the U.S., he was launching a new book. So, of course, he's trying to get the word out about his book. I said, hey, can I interview you about your success in book? I'll link to it from my blog. And, of course, it's just so natural when you find a way to, share their message with your network and it's relevant to both of you. It just happens naturally. Whether you're extroverted and want to do it in person and record a video or a podcast, or more introverted and want to kind of just publish it on your blog, text-based.
So, Matt, can I just ask, how do you reach out to them? Because is it through email first and then you do a face-to-face? Because you're exactly right. A lot of people, and that's the first instinct is, let's have some coffee. Can I pick your brain? And for every successful entrepreneur or even someone who's a successful CEO, they don't have no time at all. But what you've put there in terms of strategy is you're asking for their value, like what they're successful, and people love to talk about their successes. They want to share what they've experienced. How do you what's the strategy for you? Do you go through email first and then you do face-to-face? Or like, what's your tactics in connecting with people that you may not met them yet, but you're able to establish that first connection?
Well, there's no one way that works for everyone, but the most important rule to remember is they did not say no until they respond to you saying no. So what that means is that you should be emailing them not once, but a second time, and a third time, and a fourth time, and a fifth time with a red receipt. And if that didn't work, you need to add them on LinkedIn. You need to add them on Facebook. Follow their Instagram page. Respond to their story. Until they tell you no, which unfortunately I did receive a no once. It was from Mark Cuban, also a shark on Shark Tank. He said, no, thank you. And that was the only no I ever got. Everyone else who I did not interview, who I wanted to interview, I didn't get a response. So they didn't tell me no. They just didn't see the message or didn't see enough value, or they didn't think I was serious enough about it. But I should I didn't get a no, so it's okay to keep going, at least in our Western cultures, I'm assuming.
And that's powerful as well, because, until you get a no, it's a no. But sometimes you're exactly right. People because they have, so many emails, they might not have time, but it's that constant, his name's popping up. All right, I'll check it out. And that's how it is. So how did you manage to connect with people that said yes? What was the next step afterwards?
Yeah, so it's varied. I'll tell you two very different examples with two different billionaires. So, of course, once you interview a couple of your friends or mentors or whoever it is that you already know today who would definitely sit down with you, that's where you lay your foundation. After that, if you stick with it and do it every month, every week, that's when the magic starts to happen. The first billionaire that I actually had on my show, I didn't even contact him. I just got a phone call from a friend and said, hey, Matt, you remember John Paul DeJoria, the founder of Patron Tequila, Paul Mitchell Hair Products? I was like, of course, yeah, you told me about him like 6 months ago. I remember. I know exactly who he is. He's in LA, right? And he said, well, no, Matt, he's actually here in Denver, and we have him here at the salon. He supplies Paul Mitchell hair products for my buddy's wife's.
No way.
We don't know what to do with him. Like, we want him to stay here longer. Do you want to come interview him? I said, yep, I'll be there in 10 minutes. So I went down to the salon and we set up. Luckily, I had all the cameras in the car, and we set up the cameras and conducted the handshaking interview with our first billionaire that day. Where that kind of just, I was fortunately available and just kind of fell in my lap because people knew what I do. And then another billionaire after JP DeJoria was one of the entrepreneurs behind Priceline.com, and his name's Jeff Hoffman, and he's way more involved in the startup space, and he's way more interested in mentoring than this other John Paul DeJoria. But I literally just sent him a connection request on LinkedIn and with a short message, and got a response right away. And we met when we were in the same city. Where was that? California or somewhere? Las Vegas? I can't remember where we were, but we were in a different city because he lived in Chicago, I lived in Denver, and we were both in town at another city at some point, and had the interview in person there. So it really varies. Of course, those two sound easy. A lot of them are much harder.
I think that's just, you have to come with persistence, and once you get the connection and build momentum out of that, that's where you said the magic happens. It's all about consistency. Just don't give up, keep on going. I think that's really important in connecting with key people of influence, which is great. I think these are really great practical tips. And the next step is really taking action. It's like, that's great. But most of the time, people don't really act upon it. And I think what you've provided today has provided really key practical steps that there's no excuses at all. Now we've talked about networking, but what would be your best strategy in networking with others and turning that into a really great business relationship? How do you formulate that into a strategy that you find best?
Yeah, so this really varies, right? Because when I was interviewing my guests, I was also trying to figure out my business model. So they could kind of tell. They're like, okay, this guy's new at this, but he's got good intentions. He's trying his hardest. He's working hard. He doesn't know his business model yet, but he's working hard. Where today, I kind of have the business model. We do these lead generation websites. We sell phone calls, leads in the real estate contracting space. So now we're a little bit more niche. We kind of know what we're doing and who we need to talk to, where back then we didn't. But so it kind of varies on where you're at with your business. I'd kind of ask which rabbit hole we should go down. Because when I'm looking for mentors today, it's quite different than when I was a new entrepreneur and didn't really know the value that Handshaking provided or how we made money. In the early days, I would just kind of connect with people who I admire. Where today, it's like, okay, I need to network with people. Maybe they definitely need to have an online business, outsource staff. If they're only hiring in the U.S., I might not be able to learn as much from them. I need people who don't have investors, bootstrap businesses like mine. And, if you sell in the real estate industry, that's helpful as well. So now I kind of know what type of mentors I'm looking for, where before I didn't know that information. So I'm kind of just asking, oh, you're a self-made billionaire, let me interview you.
I like how you said to go into your niche because, we can waste a lot more time when you don't have a certain niche to focus on. But plugging into the right type of mentors, you can have many mentors, but they may not be fitting for your niche, right? So how do you, what's the criteria that you go through to selecting that type of mentor that's not your mentor yet, but it's your dream mentor? And how do you, manage to connect with your dream mentor and build that relationship onwards? Because sometimes if you're a mentor yourself, you may not have time. You may be thinking, well, is this guy serious? You have a pre-selected criteria to meet that standard. But for your end, how do you meet those criteria to land your dream mentor?
Yeah. Well, that leads to another conversation I had with one of my mentors. So I've got a couple things to say here. I'll try to keep it overview, and then we can dig in wherever you'd like. So number one, with mentorship, you should have a mentor that's 1 year ahead of where you are today. They are where you want to be in 1 year. And then you should also have one that's 10 years ahead. So that's kind of, and you should be close with those mentors. You guys should have things in common personally. Maybe you both like to watch American football. Maybe you both like to go golfing. Maybe you like to go smoke shisha. I don't know. It could be anything. But it should be something personal because that'll help kind of tie you guys together. And then if you're in a similar enough industry, it might also make both of you feel like you can earn more sales, maybe at some point in the future. But that's the last thought. The personal relationship comes first, and that's how you find good mentors. And you don't really always get to select them because they need to select you too. And on that note, you shouldn't only look for mentors. It's also a good thing to look for mentees. Who can you help? Because that really helps you stay encouraged. If you're only around people who are wildly more successful than you, sometimes you just feel like a piece of crap.
Crap.
Yeah.
It's
So
like, man, this guy's awesome, but I need to be awesome too,
I've
you
been
know?
trying to be awesome for 5 years. Why can't I be awesome? So so it's important to, sometimes have people that think you're kind of awesome. That way you feel like you're awesome, even if you're not.
Yeah.
But there's always people. I mean, anyone who's looking into starting their journey of self-employment, and you can always give them tips on how you started out, and that's always valuable. So have mentors and mentees.
I think that's really important because not many people that I've coached as well, like they aspire to get mentors and they have mentors, but they don't also have mentees. And I think it's great. Once you have value, you want to give out value as well, right? Then you're no longer a dead sea. You're like the river of the river Nile. You're actually outputting and giving out, contributing back. I think that's really important. Also, on top of what you've just mentioned, which is powerful, is having that relationship part first, because a lot of people think and tend to go to the business relationship first, and there's no context of that human connection. And I know I've experienced, like, yeah, it's so true, because when you have someone on a personal relationship, not only that you bond more, but you get more output. You start to share things because there's trust. But if it's a business relationship, that vibe and that type of connection is quite different from a person, which is awesome. I think that's really great. So when businesses are evolving and adapting, and wanting to really expand, like now that you are well experienced in business, how do you still continue to evolve, adapt, and improve along the way? Because you've got, a lot of belt of experience in businesses, but you're always constantly evolving and changing. How do you continue to evolve and always make that choice to always change? I mean, like keeping up to date with everything that's happening around the world.
Well, I don't know. At some point, I think businesses come a little bit more resistant to change. I don't particularly, one thing I liked about my business was we have all these different websites. We've got 124 websites today. And it's so exciting to be able to experiment with different cities and niches and see what generates the most income or see where we win the fastest. But at this point, the hard part is I need to just stay focused on where our greatest profit is. And that's it. And I should not. I mean, it is important to know what's going on with Google and SEO. We're basically a local SEO company, and we develop our own assets, and those assets produce income each month. So it's important for me, but now I have an SEO manager, so she should know what's going on with Google algorithm changes. And now it's more about strategy and focus and management at this point. So I guess although things are always changing, because it used to be about me building these websites and then me hopping on the phone to try to sell.
Wow.
I got customers calling my website. Can you give them a quote? Okay, great. Here's how much it'll cost. Where now it's about the team and keeping them happy. And so I guess it is always changing. Now it's more about management and growing. We hired an attorney a few months ago. It's so exciting to be able to just draft up contracts. But life's good. And I guess, yeah, as a CEO and founder, your role is always changing. And that's both good and bad.
Quite well as well in terms of that type of insights and the concepts and the ideas and perspective is, yeah, you're CEO and founder, and you want to build and grow your team and stay focused on what is more profitable. Because a lot of people said, oh, well, kind of works, I'll focus on another thing. But you're able to, again, talk about the niche and really focus. And that's how you build like really great assets to your team. And now you're experiencing successes, which is fantastic. I mean, I know we got to do another episode on a different type of focus, but it's been wonderful. Like you've everything that you've said today has really resonated with me. And I know and guys, it's been resonating with the listeners right now today. And I ask this question to every guest that's on the podcast show. what is your meaning of motivation without the hype, and how to use motivation for your personal success?
Yeah, well, for me, motivation is when you can see your personal network, the friends you hang out with on the weekends, when you see that drastically change from where you started out. That's what motivates me. So yeah, and unfortunately, it's not about the hype, because this stuff is really all about long term relationships. That's what keeps the wealthy wealthy, is all of their network. They can trust their network that it's not about the money. The network, the top tier network that they really do trust, they know it's not about the money, and it's about the personal relationships. So for me, I really like that idea of money not being the motivator, and personal relationships, for not just friendships, but the friendships mixed with mentorship and business, that really has a deep meaning of trust, that is not completely motivated by the money. Money's a factor, but it's not the motivation. That's what motivates me, Jess.
Ah, I love that. I love that. I love it. That's awesome. Matt, thank you so much, Matt. Guys, that was awesome. And if you replay how many awesome words that we mentioned, it's epic. So, guys, for more information how you want to get in touch with Matt and what he does, he's got a wonderful website, wonderful services, and he's doing so many cool stuff around the world and what he does, and living it up in Costa Rica for now until he moves to another country. So if you want to get connected with him and stay in touch, all the links are provided on the show notes. So please do connect with Matt and what he does, and support him as well. So guys, if this episode has been helpful and uplifting, we would love for you to write a review to inspire more listeners to get plugged in. We will continue to provide high-value content in each and every episode. Now, if you don't mind sharing this podcast show on social media by inviting others, it would mean the world to me. Every time you tag me, we will get the opportunity to share those posts, and together, I said again, together, we can make a difference in the lives of others through inspirational episodes just like this. So there you have it. In closing, continue to unleash your greatness and tell yourself that I can, I will, and I must, and we'll see you on the next episode.